Hello and welcome to Top Story. 5 years ago, faced by rising unemployment and a set of poor economic figures, Germany introduced reforms which the then Chancellor Gerhard Schröder boasted would cut unemployment in two. The idea to force Germans into work by winning them off the notion of the state as a social safety net. The so-called Hartz reforms of 2002 to 2005, named after an advisor to Schröder, slashed unemployment and social security benefits, cut from 32 months to 12 the period in which claimants are eligible for unemployment benefits, and made it a requirement that unemployed persons be ready to accept any legal job, regardless of their qualifications and the level of pay. As a consequence, the number of people taking on so-called mini-jobs with pay of less than €400 a month has soared. But while the reforms may in part be responsible for today's improved unemployment figures, critics say they've been achieved at a cost of widespread poverty. Well, joining me now from Frankfurt to discuss the impact of the Hartz reforms in Germany is Stefan Bielmeier, a senior economist at Deutsche Bank. Thanks very much for being with us on Top Story. I suppose the idea was to run Germany rather like a company, but is it possible to run a country in that way?
Yeah, actually, you cannot run a country like a company, but the proposed reforms of Mr. Schröder at that time, 5 years ago, was urgently needed because we have a very unflexible labor market still here, and 5 years ago it was even more unflexible, and Mr. Schröder started to make the labor market more flexible with these Hartz reforms, which was very necessary, and now we see the first fruit of these reform steps here, and the labor market has become a bit more flexible. However, there's still a lot of to do to make it more flexible, but these reforms had to improve the labor market, to bring the people to jobs and to reduce the unemployment.
Well, at some considerable cost, though, it has to be said. There was an article in Le Monde recently here in France in which it said that 7 million people are now in the poverty bracket.
Well, that's the point. Before these Hartz reforms, we had here two systems, the social welfare system and the long-term unemployment benefits. These both systems together were brought together, and now the people are better counted and established in the system completely, and that's the reason why the number of the people who are rely on the social welfare system rose strongly, because now the number is fully clearly and in our mind, and that's the problem here.
But is it acceptable, whatever the reasons, is it acceptable in a country like Germany, one of the richest in the world, where there should be 7 million people who are poor to all intents and purposes?
Yeah, actually definitely not. It's not acceptable. But you have to also bear in mind that we have seen a strong restructuring in the German economy. A lot of low-skilled jobs were outsourced to low-wage countries in the last few years, and many people who have just a few skills has a very hard time to find a new job because these jobs were outsourced. And so we need here a reskilled of the people here, a re-education, and this is the hot topic which is currently discussed here in Germany. How can we improve the education system here in Germany, and how can we bring the long-term unemployed back to labor?
Is it acceptable, do you think, to force people who, in many cases, have good qualifications into low-paid jobs, sometimes, as we've been saying, less than €400 a month, simply because the law now requires you to accept any job that becomes available?
Well, this is one way to bring back people to the labor market. I know it's not very comfortable for these people, but it's probably the best way to establish these people back to the labor market and make them more attractive for potential employer here in Germany. And they should also use the opportunity to reskill and to improve their skills here and make themselves more attractive for employers. And so I think this is the first step to a solution. Definitely it's not very welcomed by me and also by the other people here, but probably it's not avoidable.
You say they should take the opportunity to become re-skilled, but if they're under constant pressure to take whatever job that comes up, however poorly paid, are they going to be able to do that?
Well, I think it's better to have a job and to use the opportunity here to be integrated in the labor market instead to remain unemployed and to be an outsider of the system. Because as long as you're an outsider of the system, you have hardly a chance to get an insight into the new system of the economy and what skills are needed. And so I think this is an opportunity for these people.
Social organizations in Germany are saying that thousands, more than that, hundreds of thousands of families now in Germany are being forced to rely on food banks simply because they don't earn enough money to do their shopping. Is that really the case?
I think this number is a bit exaggerated here. So far, the people get also some wealth money from the state still, so the welfare system still works. And if you have a family with child, you get also benefits for the child itself. So I don't believe this number actually.
One of the other claims that's made by the social organizations is that many people, particularly the long-term unemployed who are having problems with paying their rent, can be forced out of their old accommodation into cheaper accommodation so that the payments paid by the state to them are lower. The problem with that, they say, is that it's creating social ghettos in Germany. Is that the case? Or is there a danger of that happening at least?
Yeah, at least this is a danger of these reforms. It was discussed already as the reforms were introduced. As here also we had a fear here in Germany that such ghettos might be established in the cities, but so far it didn't place. And so I still think it will. We have still the risk here. But so far, it is
early days, though, Mr. Bielmeier. I mean, within 2-3 years, if the project continues, it could very well be the case. There could be two Germanys, a poor and a rich Germany.
Well, look, we have a very globalized world, and the dynamic within the globalization is very high. And Germany is an export-oriented country, and we have to cope with this, globalization pressure, and the education pressure for the people will also rise in the next few years, and thus the pressure on the people itself will probably also rise. And so a stronger differentiation between within the income classes might be possible here. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to Stefan Bielmeier in Frankfurt. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.